Welcome to Tell the Damn Story, the show that explores the many ways to navigate the successes and failures that aspiring and struggling writers face to make your journey that much easier.
Holy cow, we're here again!
Yeah.
What is this, 409, 410 times?
Something like that. 400
Ladies
something.
and gentlemen,
You see how folks, how we keep track of this?
I'm Alex Simmons and he's Chris Ryan.
By now.
Just checking to see if you're paying attention. I'm Chris Ryan, that's Alex Simmons. We're writers who have done a lot of things over a lot of years.
As well as writing.
A lot of years. And we're here to share observations and information to make your journey easier and more fulfilling and more fun. And we're going to get to it today by doing a topic. In 409 previous episodes, Alex, we've never tackled this topic.
That's right. Not full out for sure. For dang sure.
As we get deep into Tell the Damn Story Legacy,
Yeah.
410 episodes in.
The legacy episodes, right?
We're going to give you, how do we say it, Alex?
Well, I'm gonna do it this way. How are we gonna
All
do
right.
it? Here's a question for you folks. How do you create empathy and relatability in a character when it's almost impossible, when all the odds are against you? That's what we're going to speak about today and share some inner sanctum secrets about it.
That's right. And they're going to, if you use them, they're going to help you tell your damn story a little better.
Oh, yes.
Come with us
absolutely.
as we talk about nuance and substance today on TTDS.
He said,
all right, Alex. So when people talk about stories and films and plays and all that stuff, the first couple of things people tend to bring up are the big splashes, right?
Yeah.
The broad stroking details of the plot, or how a star or handle this, or how an author, but
or the outrageousness of the characters, the bigger characters,
all the big,
audacious characters,
the big obvious splashes.
Yeah.
But to get those into your heart and soul, writers and creators go through their work multiple times, adding little details, little adjustments, little nuances that help bring the characters to life in a way that keeps you with those characters, or keep those characters within you long after you have finished experiencing the story. And that's what we want to talk about.
Right. And we have on occasions talked about techniques that help you develop your characters and create backstory for your character. And we've definitely talked about the value of rewrites and revisions multiple times, probably 350 out of the 410 episodes we've done.
It's that important, folks.
So now we're going to niche down to discuss, as Chris says, the nuances, and we're going to use a particular film, although we'll refer to a couple of other things too, but we're going to use a particular film that we both have seen. Chris has seen it more than me, and talk about how they did it and what was, to me and to Chris, particularly educational and entertaining about that technique.
Yeah.
So
we're going to refer to this film, and we're also going to refer to some of the stuff I'm reading. I'm currently reading the book that it's based on, and I love that this topic is supported by the book as well.
Yeah.
So what film / book are we talking about this week?
We're talking about Newt Rockney's. No, that's not it.
Yes.
Cinderella.
Late Nights with Newt Rockney.
Jason Meets Cinderella. No, we're talking about the new film with Ryan Gosling called Hail Mary.
Project Hail Mary.
Yes, that's right. That's what I said. Project Hail Mary.
Which is based on the Andy Weir book, surprisingly entitled Project Hail Mary.
Wow.
There you go.
Coinky dink.
And the thing that we will say about both is that They are engaging, extremely well told stories in both formats. They are different in both formats, but both very satisfying. And they achieve all that because of the topic we're talking about today. They create empathetic characters using little details, little nuances to build up empathy and also to give the audience things to embrace.
And they start
Right.
out by they start out by allowing you to connect with the protagonist, which is Ryan's character. Ryland is his name?
Dr. Ryland Grace.
Right, Dr. Ryland Grace. They start out by letting you connect with him, not on his more, and again, folks, we're not going to be giving away a lot of the film, but we are going to talk about in the arena of things that you would learn from the trailers and things like that. So we start out by meeting him not at his more grandiose position, which he moves to later in the film, but he's a school teacher,
Yeah.
right? So he is an adult working with younger children in the classroom, and we get to see how his nature, how his personality connects with these kids as he's teaching them. And that
So
immediately creates a feeling about him that is something that, yeah, we can kind of embrace that. Either we remember a teacher or somebody that we maybe connected with or was fun to be with, or we have our own children who have a teacher that we've met and talked to, but somehow that's an open door. That's a
yes.
door that is universal to a lot of the audience. Somehow we can go through that door initially.
What there was a rule of thumb that I read years ago that really works here. It says to open your main character to the audience. Have that character do something for somebody else that is of no benefit to themselves. And we see Ryland do that with the kids, right? He's asking questions. He's giving compliments when they answer it. He's fun. He's enjoying himself, allowing them to enjoy themselves. And he doesn't lie to them,
Mm,
right? They ask about,
a difficult
again,
question. Yeah.
yeah, they ask about what's happening in the news, which is a great foreshadowing for the thing that concerns 99% of the movie or book. But they ask that question, and by what Ryland Grace, how he answers, he first says, I think that'd be a great question for your parents to answer.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, well, I don't know what the school would feel comfortable with me talking, but they look at him and he has empathy for the kids. So he answers as honestly as possible. This is of no benefit to Ryland Grace.
Right.
Matter of fact, having both taught, Alex and I know that such honesty and such service to students can blow up in your face. It only takes one irate parent to say, why did you discuss that in class? Right. But he's that teacher. He's that teacher that you can ask and they will answer honestly.
Eh,
And it gives us a first doorway in to saying, okay, I'll give this guy a shot.
right. I have to admit to, and this again, even as I'm about to share something of my own experience, it shows how what you put into your story, even again, the nuances or the little moments, pulls your audience in or pulls in members of your audience because of something in their life. So I'll be very quick about this. At one point in my career of teaching, I would do after school programs. And I had this one after school program that was called That's News to Me. And it was its fledgling project. So I'd gone with this particular after school group and I had shown them what the project was about, which was working with kids. They would interview people and then write down these like news articles, and we would actually print little mini newspapers with the kids' articles in it. This was so they had to be able to read, write, blah blah blah. Fine. First day of the program, I arrived at the school at 3:15, and I'm introduced to my first group, 6-year-olds. I'm 6-year-olds, and I'm talking to the person who says, "Well, is that going to be a problem?" it's a writing, and I'm thinking to myself, yes, you could tell them, no, older because they need to. But I went, you know what? Let me face the challenge. Let me face the challenge. So I said, I went in, I started working with him, and we found a great way of working together. Now, what I'm getting at is there was an accident with the Staten Island ferry. A few
Okay.
weeks later, it crashed into the docks. People were hurt, blah, blah, blah. The next day, I go to do this program, and these 6-year-olds are all filled with the news from last night and this morning about people were hurt, someone died. Why did the captain leave the boat and go home and not talk to anybody? And I'm going, just like Rylan, well, maybe that's something you want to talk about with your parents or with your teacher. And they were just, and I said, okay, let me try it this way. And I asked them questions about why they thought such and such would happen or how they would feel if they
Right.
had hurt something or done something. And they, within 5 minutes or so, answered their own question in a way that gave them peace. And we were able to move on to another project. But when I'm watching Rylan do that, that's where my head went.
Right.
So yeah, so what you put into your stories, absolutely, even the little moments, the simple little moments, not the big thing, the simple little moments can connect your audience.
Now I want to take a step out of the story,
Mm-hmm.
Project Hail Mary, and say sometimes it's the nuance of how you prepare for a story, right? Because it would have been very easy to go through Ryland Grace's life story and tell the story that way.
Yep.
Andy Weir does not do that. And
He's the
he
author of the
introduced
book. Yeah.
the author of the book. And the structure he comes up with winds up allowing us to experience so much more of he winds up on a spaceship going somewhere. Don't
Mm-hmm.
want to give too much away. But rather than seeing that progress in linear time, chronologically, right? He wakes up in there with a long beard and longer hair and amnesia. And he doesn't remember how he got on the ship. And he doesn't understand why he's there. He doesn't. In the book, they have a little more luxury of rooms. So he doesn't even know he's on a ship. He wakes up and there's robot arms coming at him. And he's like, what the hell? And he can't move because he doesn't know. And slowly he recognized it comes to him little by
Mm-hmm.
little,
Mm-hmm.
and he gets more control of his body, and the robots feed him liquid, and then they realize that he must have been out for a while because they're not giving him solid food, etc. All these little nuances of how your body would be if you had been in a coma for a while.
Or in
But why is
stasis.
he in a
Yeah. Yeah.
coma? And
Yeah.
then the nuance of what that was. And also, it allows Andy Weir to let Ryland Grace and in turn the audience, the readers and the viewers experience what's happening in real time from the most crucial time of the
Mm-hmm.
story. The Ryland Grace remembers things in bits and pieces. Sometimes things that he needs, sometimes things that he doesn't. He discovers things about the other crewmates that is heartbreaking, but when he remembers more about the crewmates, those heartbreaks deepen little things,
Mm-hmm.
how they looked, what they liked, realizing, oh, she was an engineer, he was this, finding their uniforms and realize, and pictures from their lives. These are all nuances. A picture is just a little detail, a snapshot of a moment, and but it because of the way it's placed, it means so much more. Now, this is not necessarily saying Andy Weir is a genius. It is saying that he took himself some time, which is what we say all the time. He had the characters in his head, and maybe he went for a walk. Maybe he baked a cake. We don't know, whatever. And he started thinking, how's the best way to say that? So that's a second point for you to consider, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I
Let me,
got my story.
yeah,
How do I want to tell it? What's the best way to tell it? You're allowed to think about that. That does make your story less natural, less empathetic, less organic. It's just a presentation. It
and most
also, go ahead.
most assuredly, again, going back to the nuances, you mentioned the photographs and some of the other things. As he grows within the experience, again, choosing my words, what he finds out about the crewmates comes in bits and pieces, and sometimes it's the simplest little things that become the bigger clue or move him forward that next step or
Right.
moment in time, or that personal experience. So
And
again,
that's
it's
go ahead.
again knowing your characters well
Right.
allows you to start to fine tune or discover or choose what little nuanced moments, what little bits and slices and pictures of life you want to utilize.
And it's a great fun exercise for people if they have a favorite movie, right? This is my favorite because I love this character. Well, go and watch it again and watch it from the perspective of how did these people tell this story to me? How did they reveal this character I love so much? What details came first? When did my empathy towards or my connection to this character grow? Oh, when that moment happened. When this, and the more you do that as an exercise, the more it'll come with you when it's your turn to tell your story.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
there's another thing, how to tell these nuances. Andy Weir happens to be very scientifically oriented, but he is also just aware enough to know that if he went to a heavily science-oriented sci-fi book, he would lose maybe three-quarters of his audience. Not because science is boring. Science is a fascinating thing. But if you get too deep in the weeds, you limit who is going to be able to roll with that. So building him in, going back to a point that we already revealed, that he was a middle school science teacher, and there's a reason behind that, which again, let me get to that later. But we're able to accept his mindset. He's used to explaining scientific concepts to middle schoolers. So
Mhm.
he's used to breaking it down in simple, basic terms. So when we're in space and we have to learn things or explain things, he doesn't get us in the weeds, doesn't lose us in the weeds because he's used to that mindset. It's a double um, nuance because that helps us, but we accept it because he was a middle school teacher. If he was a professor at Columbia and he started breaking this down, like this bastard talking down to us, and we throw the book across the room. So
Yeah.
it's again, there's a little detail. We don't heavily dwell on his day-to-day routine as a middle school teacher. Once we got it, he can use that
And we
to
move on.
make science fun.
And moving on to, but again, hitting on the same point, that ability to break things down into a more digestible form, short form or whatever, also aids him in the communication with the being that he meets.
Yes. And
Yeah.
that takes us, there's one other thing I wanted to mention before we get to the other being, but the other thing that he does is he has a sense of humor. A lot of a sense of humor is about himself. In the book, he just goes with things and makes jokes for himself to help cope because he's in the middle of space on a spaceship. What the hell? In the movie, Ryan Gosling studied Chaplin movies so he could trip and this and that to show his humanity and his
Mhm.
fallibility. Both of those are nuances, they're subtle, and they really help show humanity. Always show your characters humanity,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so once we've seen that, and it's fun to watch the movie and it's fun to read the book, looking at how Andy Weir and the filmmakers bring across the humanity of Ryland Grace. But then that's like jumping, jumping over a jump rope, right? But then he has to do the high jump of doing essentially the same thing for an alien that will be completely alien to us.
Yep.
Right? E.T. has a face and hands and a voice, things we can latch onto.
Yep.
The I forget the term they use, but the creatures in Aliens,
Yeah.
they still kind of had a face.
Well,
They
they
still kind of
definitely had
had
a face
recognizable body
and
parts.
appendages that we could connect to, and we understood what they're used for. Yeah.
But Project Hail Mary, one of the most unique aliens ever put in a book or on screen. You want to take a first swing at it there,
Well, I'll again
champ?
try not to dissect the movie to the point of where people who haven't seen it have nothing to look forward to.
But this has been in the trailers, so it's fair.
We will simply say that okay, fine. I hadn't noticed that. I will simply say that you have an alien who has no face.
No face.
There are no eyes. There's no lips, no mouth, no facial features that we as human beings, even with animals, they have a
Right.
face. We can connect to. Certain insects
And
have a face we can connect to.
right.
This creature has no face, no eyes,
And
no expressive
no
visage.
humanoid characteristics at all. What
Well,
does he look like?
well, base
Uh,
again. If we're going to reveal, have we
oh
seen him
no,
in the
no, that's
trailers?
all over. I
Okay,
mean,
fine,
he's
fine,
starring in promotions now.
fine. Okay, we got a rock. We've
Yeah,
got
he looks
several
like
rocks.
he looks like he's made of rock.
He
Not
looks
Ben
like
Grimm. I'm a humanoid that's covered in rocks, right?
no, no.
This
We're
guy
talking
looks
basically
like,
three or
matter of
four
fact,
rocks that are
he,
rolling together.
he's called Rocky,
Yeah.
and that's out there already anyway. We're not
Okay. Okay.
spoiling
Fine.
anything.
Because I hadn't seen
But
that trailer. Yeah.
well, Rocky stars in commercials himself, and
Oh,
there's
geez.
action figures and all
We've
that
done
stuff.
this already.
It's
Okay.
all out there, bro.
Oh, geez.
So yes, fascinating.
Yeah.
But again, back to our theme for today of nuance and subtlety. We don't see him right away. Much like if you go back, everyone has seen E.T. We hear a little something. We see something picking up the Reese's Pieces, right? We have all those little things. We see something run by,
Mm-hmm.
and we're revealed piece by piece. Same thing here. But this doesn't have like a cute little E.T. face. So what we do is there's an exchange of stuff. We don't see him, but we know there's someone there.
Yeah.
And then we hear this.
I don't hear
Oh,
it.
no. Oh, did you hear it?
No.
Well, let's see where. How about that?
Nope. Our mics
Knock,
are not
knock,
picking
knock.
this up. Yeah. Right. There
Knock,
we go.
knock.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The most common of interactions. People have knocked on our doors our whole lives, right? They've knocked, if a door's open, to just not barge in. They,
Yeah.
knock on wood. This is a very common thing. So to hear the knock, you can recognize it as a form of communication. It happens to be like the third or fourth form of communication. And then we get to see a rock knocking, because Ryland Grace knocks back, right?
Knock,
Knock, knock,
knock,
knock.
knocking at
He
your
knock,
door.
knocks. So communication is established. But then we see, little rock comes out. I don't have, oh, here we go. That doesn't look human at all, right? If you're watching on YouTube, it was a kind of a rock thing. So we build out, and then we see that separates into fingers, three
Yep.
fingers. So it's detail by detail, leading us in to know that's an intelligent life form before we get to see the whole thing. And when we see that thing, it's in shadows.
Mm-hmm.
And then it steps out of the shadows. And it's kind of moving. It's got 4 or 5 appendages, and it's moving. So when you first, is it a spider creature? And then we see the full rock thing.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, no face. And no way to communicate. and they get to build on that, and you go on that journey. So it's those little nuances. How am I going to do it? What is the most humane way to do it? What is the way that people can recognize? And then you get to the more far-fetched aspects.
Right.
But by then you have a foundation. So there's another thing to write down. What is your foundation for your character or for your story?
And
How are
the
you going
characters'
to
interactions. Yeah.
how are you going to build on it? In the film, they mimic each other's movements to
Mm-hmm.
start communication, right? It gets further and it gets more, let's say, technically proficient without that way, no spoilers, right?
Okay.
And on we go. But it's all those nuances that help this story work. A story that almost from the get-go should not have worked.
Mm.
And it works through human empathy. And
Here's another. I'm sorry. Here's another
yeah,
thing too that we do. You just said the word human empathy. We endow creatures with the personality of other creatures that we can connect to, or sometimes we endow objects with the personality that humans can connect to, with human personalities, or even the instincts or personalities or actions or habits of insects or other animals. So that again, our brain, our human brain, or your audience's brain and emotions can somehow relate to what we're seeing, even if that thing is strange. We were talking about, because we're talking science fiction here for a moment, when we talk about Alien, the closest thing that I could always connect that kind of creature to is lives in the insect world, because there are various insects that once they do their damage to you, lay their eggs in you, and or in the corpse, or the body of the creature that they've killed, and then the eggs develop, feed off of that, and then the offsprings are born. So that's, you pull from your insect world, you pull from your animal world. Our imaginations then take those elements and we create this new entity. And then again, as writers, decide how are we going to introduce this entity to the audience? Where does it fit within the world that we're utilizing? How do we build suspense? Or how to, like with E.T. and with this film, how do we build sympathy with something that is not like us? And again, the nuances, the subtle things that you start out with and then build on, which is what Chris has also been pointing out. They are building. We start small, we start tiny, and then we keep building and building. And before you know it, yes, Rylan has this relationship with this alien, but so do we.
yeah, yeah. And we're introduced to Ryland already in his situation. He's in an inescapable situation. He's in an impossible situation. And most of us have been in impossible
Mm-hmm.
situations. Remember that the personal is universal. The more personally nuanced your story is, the more universal it becomes. Aerosmith's Dream On is not only about Steven Tyler's dream, it's about everyone who hears it. They attach their own dream to it.
Mm.
Same thing here. He feels lost. He is physically and emotionally and mentally lost. We have all been at least one of those things in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter where it's happening, whether it's the Bronx, New York, or New Jersey, or Duluth, Minnesota, or the depths of space.
Mm-hmm.
We know that feeling. So that helps us connect to Ryland Grace. We see his humanity. That helps us connect to Ryland Grace. We see his predicament. We understand that. Helps us relate to him. So then when we meet Rocky and realize Rocky is in the same predicament as Ryland Grace, all of those things that we have embraced about Ryland get transferred over to Rocky. And not only are we rooting for Ryland Grace now, we're also rooting for Rocky.
Right.
And though it's all done by Nuances, the building blocks of empathy and humanity. I want to go ahead. You got
Now,
more
I
to
was
say
just going to
about?
say very quickly that while sitting here, literally while sitting here, I suddenly realized there was another science fiction movie that it's a different story, but utilized some of the same storytelling structure that we're talking about now, and that was called Enemy Mine,
Mm-hmm.
Mine, because you had a human astronaut, and in this case, a human soldier, because the Earth and this alien race are in war with each other. But they're two space pilots fighting each other, damage their ships, crash on a planet, and then are forced to, over a period of time, to develop some sort of communication and then some sort of trust, limited as it is in the beginning, to then a connection in order to survive. And where it goes from there, because the aliens' biology is very different from the humans, and so there's adjustments there and all this. But what it is about how do we connect? And as a storyteller, like with Project Hail Mary, the human elements, the things that we care about, the things that are almost every day in certain ways, are the things that the human in this story, Enemy Mine, begins to pick up on certain things within the alien's life and vice versa. And that's how they begin to connect. And we as the audience go, oh yeah, I get that. I get being out, alone. Or I get, having this feeling about negative feeling about someone else. But now I have to sort of get to understand them more. That's something I can somehow understand. So again, these slow introductions to things that we as humans can connect to universally are utilized in the nuances of Hail Mary, Enemy Mine, certain other films that we can definitely talk about, and I'm sure you people out there have seen and didn't maybe think about it at the time, but now you have a reason to.
Well, it's a great opportunity to throw in the comments. Well, how about this works in the same way? And that's a good exercise for you
Yeah,
and a good exercise for us. That would be great. I
yeah,
do want to give two other examples,
sure, sure, sure.
both currently on television.
What are they, Mr. Ryan?
Um, One is Daredevil Born Again. And if you haven't watched it, if you're not a superhero fan, I think you're missing out. If you are, he's a very grounded superhero, but it's a great story. It's a New York story. It's a story of the battle for control and the real moral battle of where the line is
Mm,
of your morality. And one of the things they do is you have four, really five characters. I would even say six, but you could keep going. But all of the characters in this, they are different versions of people who have made decisions about where their moral line is.
mm,
Wilson Fisk, the kingpin, his moral line is very low. He will cross that moral line. Daredevil's moral line is very high, but it's different than his alter ego, Matt Murdock. You
mm-hmm,
know, he's one of the great characters for this because, again, he's a living nuance. Matt Murdock is a blind lawyer, justice is blind, right? Who fights for those who can't speak for themselves, whether it is those who are defendants, who might be his own criminals or people he doesn't approve of what they're doing, and then at night he puts on a costume and beats the snot out of them in a different way, right? Where his line is a fascinating, he's very Catholic character, and he struggles with where what's it's costing his soul for everything he does.
mm,
And another character in this world is Frank Castle, the Punisher, whose line is completely different. And then, what's his name? Bullseye, who was a stone cold killer and now thinks as long as he's stone cold killing bad guys, he's a hero. And then there's Karen Page, who is alongside Daredevil, but seems to be willing to be a little more Frank Castle. And then there's a young kid. It's the niece of a hero that was killed in last season called the White Tiger. She now has the amulet that gives you the power of the White Tiger. And she's tiny. And she is just little. It's not like she's walking around super muscles or anything, but she's determined to help. And Matt Murdock would say that you're a child, you can't do that. And Karen Page says to her when she offers to help, oh, absolutely not. And she looks over to Daredevil, who's leaning in the corner, cool, and he goes, and the kid comes over to her and he lifts the amulet a little bit. He says, do you understand the responsibility that comes with wearing this? She says, I do. And I think he thinks he's got her because he says, are you ready? And the little kid looks up to him and says, were you? And that subtle thing, are any of us ready when we're called upon to act on our beliefs? How do you get ready to do that? It was a great, it's a one, maybe a 5-second exchange here, those last two lines. But I've reflected on it for days now. And it's not like she goes into battle. She just delivers something or whatever. Maybe she'll eventually go into battle. I don't know. I know in the comics, she eventually grows into the role, but she's little here. And it'll be interesting to see where it goes. But it's, again, that subtlety. There's also a subtlety. Fisk, when he fights as Kingpin, right? He smiles. When he's throwing lethal punches, when he's squishing a head or whatever, he smiles. He gets pleasure out of it. And especially this season, especially this latest episode, there are 2 times where Daredevil takes a punch and he smiles. And we would think he was insane if we didn't know. This is technically the 5th season of Daredevil. We know his dad was a boxer. We know he learned how to box and all that stuff. So what he's smiling at is, that was a good hit. Not like I'm having fun or, he's not smiling the same way that Kingpin smiles. He's not smiling the way Frank Castle, Punisher, smiles when someone tells him they have the upper hand on him. It's a different kind of smile. There is an abandon that Daredevil has and a freedom that Matt Murdock locks inside. These are all little subtle moments that when, someone somewhere wrote that in the script. Daredevil smiles. So they had to think about that reaction. Why?
Yeah.
What does it tell? What does it say? And giving yourself, one, the pleasure and the opportunity, but also the time to reflect on your story like that so that you can put in those little nuances means the difference between a story that people have read 100 times before and a story that sticks out and says, oh, I want to be involved with that. I want to do something with it. I want to read that story. I'm going to remember that story. I have one other example as we wrap this up.
Right.
The world's most watched television show right now around the globe in multiple languages, God bless it, is The Pit. Just saw that report this week. The Pit is filmed in a unique way that allows us to discuss nuances in a different way. And it gives us something else to think about in our own writing, in our own creation. They created a 360-degree set where you could film any which way and you're still in the emergency room. right? Or the waiting room, that kind of thing. And they film chronologically, page by page of the script. They also hired a slew of background players to play patients waiting in the hall, waiting in the waiting room, whatever. And they worked with the entire cast and all the background players to always be in the moment. And what that unleashed for them was an ability to just use background sounds as their soundtrack. There's no music in this show, right? No special effects. Da-na-na, oh, we must look at this heartbreaking moment. No, it's the tension in the room, which is fascinating. It helps you think about what sounds are happening in my story, right? The more senses you can bring to your story, the more alive it will be. But also, watching that show allows us to consider how the people around us or around our characters react to what's going on with our characters. And there's endless number of little nuances going on in the background where they look, and it helps build relationships. There's two attending doctors. Those are the ones who lead. One leads the day shift, one leads the night shift. But they also are close enough friends where they can give each other a look, and there's a whole bunch of information exchanged in that one look. Once you have established your characters and you cast enough, you can play with that in just a look. My current work in progress features two characters. One who has been working almost 100 years to prevent what the other one causes. So once we've established that, we understand the one who was trying to prevent it for almost a century. We understand when he talks about the depth of his frustration. God bless him. He didn't even know this was going on. He was on his way to work. So we have someone very new to a situation, someone very versed in the situation. Thinking along those terms, how long has somebody been around? What is the backstory? And there's that book I have to get out again. And filling out the nuances of your character, sometimes even before you're writing the story, informs the story and informs how the nuances of the story will enhance the enjoyment of that tale. And that is rock solid gold, no matter what planet you're on.
I think, folks, we've explored this. We could go on because that's what we do. But we've explored this to the point of giving you a lot to think about, and I hope you've taken some notes. But, the bottom line is, again, the same message that we have shared over 400 times is knowing your character and establishing your backstory, learning where your story is going, but learning how to go back and revise, go back and review, go back and look for those moments that will bring that world alive and bring that character alive. That's your privilege. That's an open door for you. And to see rewrites or revisions as an albatross doesn't serve you and certainly doesn't serve the story.
Yeah. First draft is getting it out.
As a way of really just embellishing or improving or helping that story reach its best possible form, that's freedom. That is absolute freedom. And please embrace that, because the nuances really, they make all the
First draft
difference.
is, I used to tell this to my high school English students who wanted to just hand in their first drafts. I said, the first draft is you're getting the idea down. The rewrite is when you're making an idea good, great, and then irresistible. It's worth making it irresistible, ladies and gents.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alex, I think we have done all right.
Yes.
It is always an honor to be all right with you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, folks, for joining us again. Please leave your comments in the comments box or shoot us an email. Let us know what nuances you enjoyed, you picked up on in some of your favorite films, or what are you trying to work on or work into your stories. We would love to hear about it.
What's your favorite nuance, man? What's your favorite nuance?
And
what's your mama's favorite nuance?
Hey, watch that now.
Hey, no mamas, no mamas.
Right. We'll be back next time. In the meantime, Chris, as always, a pleasure.
Peace, brother. It is an honor.
Take care, everybody.
Take care, everyone. Peace.